Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today, I've been thinking about, and this really just crossed my mind earlier this morning, how there's been a lot of feel-good stories in the NHL this season, or just surprising stories to say the least, with players who really had lower expectations and have exceeded them, and have really gone under the radar basically all throughout this NHL season. And for this video, I decided to exclude rookies because I already did a video on the Calder race recently, so if you haven't seen that, check it out. But it just made sense to talk about guys who already have been in the league for at least a couple years versus rookies where you don't know what's going to happen with them. So I'm excluding them from this video, but there's four forwards in particular that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and really surprising seasons, but really strong ones, and I'm a fan of pretty much all of them. So, starting off, I have JT Miller for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, he is a guy who has been talked about many times throughout the season, but still doesn't get the PR I think he deserves. He's having a career year, and if you don't know JT Miller, he was drafted in the first round by the New York Rangers back in 2011, and then a couple years ago, I believe 3 years ago now, 3 or 4, he was traded as part of the deal with the New York Rangers with Ryan McDonough, their captain at the time, being shipped off to Tampa Bay Lightning, and then the past 2 seasons he played with the Lightning. And last season he had 47 points with them and was under a new contract then too, but things just didn't seem like they were clicking on full cylinders for Miller, because I knew that when the Rangers dealt him, as a Rangers fan, seeing him play plenty, there was plenty of upside when it came to him. He was really strong two-way forward. It seemed like he didn't click with the coach at times a lot, which led to him being moved. And overall, the same thing kind of happened with Tampa Bay. At least he was in more of a decreased role because of how deep Tampa's offense is. So he then gets shipped off after last season to the Vancouver Canucks going into this year. And he is put in a perfect scenario in their top six, on their top line with their best players, including Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, etc. And he has thrived under his new role with this new team. In 65 games played this year, he has 26 goals, 42 assists for 68 points, and a plus-minus 9. Those are all career highs, and he is really showing that there was more potential to be had when it comes to him. He's only 26 years old, so he's right in the prime of his career now. And in my opinion, the Rangers were a team that definitely gave up on him too soon. I was a big fan of his. I especially remember one of my favorite memories with him as a New York Ranger was when he scored the OT winner in the Winter Classic a couple years ago. That was the season that he ultimately was traded from the team, so it was nice to see him play. But overall, Miller is a really strong player. He's been fantastic on their power play as well. And like I said, very defensively minded, which I admire, especially from any guy in the forward front. Really strong game overall. He is becoming quite the steal for Vancouver, who, even though they gave up a first and I think 1 or 2 firsts for him, he is not making it a lopsided deal by any means. If anything, is definitely favoring Vancouver right now over just a couple picks. So overall, Vancouver won there, and I'm so happy for JT Miller to see him thrive, and I hope that this continues for the rest of the season and that he will have a chance to have a deep playoff push with the Canucks this year. So the next pick I have is Kevin Fiala. Fiala is another guy who really is not getting the attention that he deserves whatsoever. If you know him, he was drafted in the first round in 2014 by the Nashville Predators. Loved him when he first came out of the gate. The Swiss forward just had ridiculous speed, flying up and down the ice with a strong shot as well. I remember watching him, I believe he was in juniors, and overall was just lights out. And then when he first came in the league with the Predators, he was doing fantastic. And then in the 2017-2018 season, he had 48 points, I believe, and that was his career high up to date. But then going into last year, he was obviously traded from the Nashville Predators to the Minnesota Wild, having Mikael Granlund go the other way. And at the time, that seemed like a bad trade on both sides. But since then, both players have really picked up their game as of late, but Fiala has, without question, been the better of the two. So Minnesota really looked out there with a trade that seemingly did not look good at all originally, but Fiala is only 23 years old, and he has a lot to give. He has not even hit his peak yet by any means. He has done fantastic in a top role with the Minnesota Wild this season on special teams as well. I believe he has at least 16 points on special teams. And overall, in 60 games played this year, the forward has 20 goals, 29 assists for 49 points, and a plus minus of 0. And like I said, this is his career high now. His last career high was a couple years back with 48 points. So Fiala is on pace to easily get 55, 60, maybe even more points coming out of the season, depending on how the Wild play. But overall, I'm really happy for him. I'm excited for his future and what his future will ultimately hold with the Minnesota Wild, assuming they keep him long term. And then the next guy I have for my list is Zach Sanford. Sanford is a guy that, if you're not a Blues fan, you wouldn't necessarily know a whole lot of. He's been a bottom 6 guy for the entirety of his career, up really until this year where he's had an increased role at times due to injuries and things of that nature. But he has really taken advantage of all the opportunities that have come his way. The 25-year-old forward was drafted in the 2013 draft in the second round by the Washington Capitals, and he never played a game with the Caps. He has only played games with the St. Louis Blues, and has really been fantastic for them this season. If you look at his stats, in 53 games played, only 53, he has 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points, a plus minus plus 15, and has a career high in every category this year. So he has been playing fantastic, and I know he at least has one hat trick this season, and that was a 4-goal game against the Vegas Golden Knights, because I remember watching that game. That was crazy. But he has really thrived under a more opportunistic role with this Blues team that has dealt with injuries all throughout their lineup throughout the season, but that has not fazed them by any means. And Sanford is really showing that there might be more potential than what was expected of him originally starting out his career with the St. Louis Blues. So time will tell to see what exactly his ceiling will be, and if this is just kind of a, strong year for him and then he kind of dies down back to normal for his terms going forward. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that there is more to give when it comes to Sanford. I don't expect a crazy high ceiling with him, but I feel that there is still more to give, and I won't be surprised if he's more part of their top 9, their top 6 going into next season and the years going forward. So, and the last pick I have is Alex Iafallo from the LA Canes. Iafallo is another guy who, of course, you don't hear about much because of the Canes having a not great year by any means. They're going through this rebuild, so it's expected. But Iafallo in an increased role with a really depleted LA Canes roster with not having any depth on the scoring front by any means, has had a very strong season and has truly come out of nowhere. While he did have 33 points last year, this is only his 3rd or 4th season with the Canes. I know he was signed as an undrafted free agent coming out of Duluth for college, I believe. And this year, in 66 games played, he has 16 goals, 24 assists for 40 points, and a plus minus a minus 1. Those are all career highs. He is on pace to have finished the season with upwards of 55, 60 points. I don't think he's going to get that much, but I could definitely see him finishing the season with at least 50 points. So Iafallo has really been an eye-opener for this Canes team that is going through a rebuild and is making his case to be part of the Canes' future going forward once they kind of have more guys, coming in from their great prospect pool, might I add, and really blossoming and being part of their future. So I'm really happy for Iafallo, who's been doing great with them and has been on special teams as well. And the 26-year-old forward has just really stood out to me in the games I've watched for the Canes this year. He's definitely a guy that you do notice on the ice and is improving game by game. And you see a constant progression throughout every single season he's been in the league. And while he has been given more opportunities, he's been thriving under them. So it's not like he's not taking advantage of his situation, because he is. So great story overall, and I just love all these stories throughout the NHL season. But that's all for today. Let me know what you think if you're a fan of either of these teams that have these players, or just a fan of the player. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me on my picks. I could have picked plenty of players, but these were ones in particular that really stood out to me this NHL season. So if you liked the video, please like, comment for your thoughts. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, all those great things, and I will be back again in a day or two.